Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Rams facility in Thousand Oaks. I'm JB along with D'Marco Farr, and this is the Coach McVay Show, Week 6 edition. The Rams are 4-1 and going to New York to face the Giants. D'Marco, how was your weekend?
Great weekend.
Little
Victory
mini bye?
weekend. Absolutely, yeah.
How about you, Sean? A little perspective from the extra days?
Yeah, it was good. It was good to be able to get a couple days of rest and relaxation, and then I see that we're getting the elements real. How chilly it is in here for New York this weekend. You guys are on it, man. It's impressive.
Well, see, we're preparing for
Yes.
New York. Tell me you knew about a double punt. Tell me you knew what to do and all that stuff.
I tell you
Please.
what, I had no idea what the hell was going on. I just that was a first for me. I think that was a first for a lot of people. But to those guys' credit, the refs did a good job of providing clarity. And so we'll leave it at that.
I mean, we're just looking at. He's like, is that legal?
I mean, only in a blocked punt can it result in a 68-yard net. I thought to myself, you got to be kidding me right now. It's an unbelievable play by Dixon, though. I mean, if you're just saying, hey, let's look at just the one-handed pickup and then to have the presence to get flushed, to then reestablish yourself to be able to get a kick. Now, whether or not he was totally over the line or not, that's to be determined.
Right.
It's not my place to say.
They did give you an indication, though, that there wasn't a whole lot of sense in challenging, as I understand it, because New York had already been involved.
New York reviewed it. There was a lot of stuff going on, but they did give me clarity on what had happened, and so.
It's just interesting.
That's what it is.
Go ahead.
In the mini bye, what you take a step back and say, like, who are we? What have I learned about this team so far, and what might we be capable of from here?
I think that's what you always do. We try to do a good job week in and week out of doing those after-action reviews, making sure that it always starts with us, and then how does that affect the way that we want to try to put all three phases together to attack the given opponent week by week. I think we're working through that. I think sometimes you're inevitably forced to make decisions based on, okay, who's available, who's not, how do we maximize the 48 guys that are up during game day. But there's a lot of things that we can clean up on. There's a lot of things that you want to continue to do at a good clip. And fortunately, we got a little bit of rest and relaxation at the right time. Looks like we might be missing some guys, and so that agility will be required. But I think there's a lot of room for improvement, which is a positive thing, given where we're sitting.
4-1 after 5, great place to be. Wins and losses aside, just how your team is progressing. Are they progressing where you thought they would be at this time of year?
Yeah, they are. I think what we've seen, one of my favorite parts about this team, D'Marco, is that there is a resilience. There's a tough mentality and mindset. I think guys are mentally tough. I think they don't let bad plays affect their ability to be able to move forward. You've seen that in the Indy game. You saw that the other day against Seattle. You'd like to prevent the amount of times that you have to respond from adversity. I'd like us to be able to start strong, finish strong, not one way or the other. I think we can do a better job, and it starts with me of being able to play complementary football. When we get a short field from the defense, we got to capitalize offensively. We got to get better field position from teams. When we do get good field position, we have to capitalize and come away with points offensively. Can continue to emphasize taking good care of the football offensively and taking it away defensively, and when we're covering in the kicking phase. And so there's so many different things that go on, but I do like where we're at. I know that there's a lot of things that we can improve on, and we're excited about attacking those things with our players, really starting this week, and today represented really the start of that.
When you mentioned potentially missing some guys for this week in New York and beyond, sounds like you're talking about Darius Williams. Was that the most notable injury to come out of Seattle?
That's right, JB, and it's looking like he'll be out for this week. There's a possibility that we put him on IR, which means he'd be out for the next 3 weeks. Guys will be asked to step up. I thought the other day was a good example for Robert Rochelle to really get his feet wet. He had played a lot more snaps than I think people realize, even through the first 4 weeks of the season, and done a nice job. But again, kind of like I mentioned after the game, or the day after the game, I love that when things didn't go his way, he had that short memory. He had the ability to bounce back. Kind of got a similar type of play that he got the PI on earlier on a double move and lock it in the fringe area. Did a nice job being able to play with the technique, the fundamentals that we're looking for, and it ended up leading to a big breakup and forced them to a field goal when we had to stop him there.
I'm glad you mentioned that PI. I'd rather tackle a guy than give up a touchdown.
Yeah, there's sometimes when you're taking a strategic approach and you say, how do we avoid these things moving forward? But you give them credit, and I thought he did what he could based on where he was at the cycle of the snap.
But talk about being thrown into the fire.
Yeah,
you're playing in Seattle on Thursday night against one of the better receiving corps in the game.
No question.
Yeah.
They got I think Metcalf and Lockett, their production is well documented. The types of players, the system, the way that they're accentuating those guys' skill sets, and Shane's done a nice job with that. And then when you've got a guy like Russell, and to Geno Smith's credit, he did a nice job coming in and making some plays. But that is definitely where you're getting thrown into the fire, especially on a short week where you don't have any chance to really physically prepare. We kind of jogged around a little bit on Wednesday and moved around, but it wasn't totally mimicking and emulating kind of full speed and liking to get in that feel and that flow of a work week. And so he handled it pretty seamlessly. I think he's really mature for a rookie, and I think it's a credit to Coach Evero and Coach Cooley and Raheem doing a nice job with him.
I'm sure you'll leverage your full 53 in practice squad to kind of fill all the voids that he leaves behind for whatever period of time. But my name goes back to David Long Jr. And put yourself in his shoes. How do you go from sitting down on Thursday Night Football against Seattle to now maybe being asked to come back to your starting role?
Yeah, he's a mentally tough guy, and whatever his role is, I think he'll fully embrace it. And he'll handle it the right way. He's a pro's pro. Even though there was a little bit of a disappointment, I just think the way that he handles things, he's a mentally tough kid. You love that about him. And whether it's him or some other guys, it'll be, these are positive problems for us to figure out because you got a lot of possible solutions and guys that we feel like are capable of stepping up and filling that void. And it's a big void. You certainly don't replace Darius Williams with one guy. It'll be by committee. But I think part of our job as coaches is figuring out, all right, how do we maximize all 48 guys that we get up during game day and figure out roles and responsibilities that can help them contribute to, trying to achieve wins.
I remember telling guys or being coached by guys, hey, look, if you're down this week, don't get down on yourself because one play next week, you could be the guy.
That's exactly right.
Don't lose your confidence.
Yeah, and that comes from somebody that really knows. I mean, you know how volatile this league is, and change is inevitable, whether it be for good or for bad. And some things are out of our control. Unfortunately, injuries are part of this game, or production is necessary, or if a guy ascends into a greater role, and then that means another role is vacated. So there's a lot of different reasons, but that's why you don't have to get ready when you stay ready. We try to emphasize that to our guys, always staying ready, always making sure that you're focusing on the things that you can control so that if that opportunity does come, you're ready to deliver, and it's not like, all right, you're having to be reactive because you've been proactive in the beginning.
Speaking of opportunities, big nights, career nights happen all the time. You don't always tell the opponent that they're coming. That kind of felt like what happened last week with Robert Woods, and I understand why you did, because they're obviously aware of who he is and what he's capable of. But, without revealing your conversation with Robert last week, I thought it was cool that he kind of came to you, it seemed like, to get on the same page with what you wanted to do on Thursday Night Football. Yeah,
and it was one of those deals where he comes and he just wants to know, hey, what are the ways that I can continue to contribute and affect the team in a positive way? And for us, part of that, it wasn't like he was asking for touches. It was more about, hey, what are the things that you want to see from me? How do you really see where we're at? And part of it is, I said, it's almost like he read our mind as coaches, because we're saying, hey, we got to continue to get him more involved or give him opportunities, because there's a lot of times, as you know, JB and D'Marco, we'll call plays with somebody as the primary, but the coverage is different, and that's why you have 5 eligibles to be able to exhaust progressions. And there was a lot of instances the other night where we were trying to get him the ball, but then there was a couple where Matthew did a good job of being able to tick through some of his progressions and find Robert, who was consistently separating, did a great job playing with, strong, aggressive hands. And so it was good to be able to get him involved. I think the strength of our offense are getting a multiple, a good amount of guys involved. And we know what a great productive player Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, we know how great those guys are, but I also think it's important when Higbee gets his touches, when the backs get involved in the pass game. You get Deshaun and Van going. And so part of the best offenses that I've seen, the ball gets spread around and you've got all 5 eligibles that the defense feels like they have to defend on every single snap.
Wait, the Robert Woods thing was real? I thought that was just smoke for pregame. There really was a conversation.
Oh, yeah, there was a conversation.
Wow.
It was like, but these conversations go on all the time.
Right. Yeah.
It was cool to be able to have a very healthy dialogue that naturally exists throughout the course of most work weeks, but it was one of those deals where you talk about, hey, how would you want a captain to approach wanting to get more involved without it being in the least bit a selfish demand or anything like that. He just wanted to know what he could do to help contribute to our team winning games, and he felt like there were some different things. He asked my opinion on it. We talked about some things, and it was a great dialogue that really, those are the kind of things that go on pretty frequently. It's just fun to see when things are handled the right way, where you're solution oriented, you want to be on the same page, and then that communication leads to him delivering in a big way. It's a fun thing to be able to talk about, because when things are handled the right way and then it comes to life where he delivers in a big way. That's a cool thing for a coach to be able to see.
When I was asked, like, why did Robert Woods go off? I said, did you watch the tape? Hell, he was open.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he had protection. You had time to get the ball to him.
I think, and it's always, that production is always, football is the greatest team sport there is. And especially when you're talking about receivers, they've got to be able to separate. But hey, are we protecting? Is the quarterback seeing it? Is he getting it to him in the timing and rhythm that's necessary based on the concept that we're running in that instance? And there was multiple times where, he delivered. Matthew made great throws on time and in rhythm, and definitely some outstanding protection from our guys up front, and also the backs did a great job of being able to deliver both. I can think right off the top of my head of Sony and Darryl making big-time pickups that led to Robert catching some explosive plays the other night.
And the receivers paving the way for them. I mean, the block on Jamal Adams on Daryl Henderson's run into the red zone by Cooper Kupp might have been one of my favorite plays of the season so far.
It was, as long as his shoulder's okay. He did a great job. Really, there was a lot of good things, and then, on the positive, there's a lot of things that you'd say, hey, the standards, the expectations, hey, let's find a way to consistently execute some of these plays so it doesn't have to be a 23-point second half. Why can't we end up really putting together a full game? But you give Seattle credit. They did some good things as well. But, those are things that we're going to continue to emphasize is putting together all 4 quarters.
I wonder what I remember I had a coach ask me, I want you to two-gap Larry Allen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you nuts?
I know.
You're asking Cooper Kupp to go kick out Jamal Adams. I mean, is he like, Coach, are you sane right now?
No, he says, I can't wait. And you see what ended up happening. But, I think you want to be smart, but we've got some of the most selfless, tough receivers. There was a couple times where Robert Woods ended up lowering his shoulder. And, Jamal is well documented, a physical, imposing presence. But those guys are tough. They're great competitors. And I thought they did a nice job when they were asked to be in those matchups.
Every now and again, Andrew Whitworth and his colleagues will kind of wash out an entire defensive front and have an efficient run. And you can almost see him with a fist pump saying, run it back. Just give me that same one again. What do you make of Andrew Whitworth as a co-offensive coordinator, and how do you incorporate his input or ignore it, as the case might be?
I love it. I love his energy. Now, maybe he might be a little predictable in some instances, but no, he's his energy, you feed off of that. And obviously, you guys know how much I love Andrew and all the great things that he's done for our team, for the last 4 years and now 5 games into his 5th year with us. And so he's been a special player, special leader. He's doing a great job. But anytime that I know that I see this, on the sidelines, he's getting fired up. He's excited. And, there's a lot of reasons to trust him. And we do in a lot of those situations.
And he'll follow you on the sideline, too, just to make sure you get the point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I like watching that. It's kind of funny.
That's right.
But I just love watching the communication. I mean, this is supposed to be Seattle, supposed to be loud, and it's going from right tackle to left tackle and back, and everybody's on the same page.
They did a great job. Yeah. There was really one instance. We had the one delay game where there was a little bit of a miscommunication. You want to try to have those, limited to none. But I thought for the most part, a lot of the different things that we did in the absence of our verbal cadence was a really great reflection of all 11 on offense. I think Brian Allen and Matthew Stafford, and then in a lot of instances when you're asking some of the communication to come from your right guard spot with Austin Corbett, there's a lot of moving parts that we try to activate on our offense. And when you're absent that verbal communication, there's a lot of things that go into that, and I thought the guys handled it for the most part pretty seamlessly, and that's what's to be expected, but it's never taken for granted.
I'd love to relive a couple of interceptions.
Yeah.
One created by Jalen Ramsey, who's one of the stars of the NFL in your team, and then Troy Reeder is suddenly your interception leader. He's been in the right place in the right time with a couple of great efforts. And then Nick Scott, too, who I know was drafted as a special teams ace, filled that role right away, but he's kind of clawed his way to one of the top seats on the safety depth chart, too.
He really has, JB. I think when you start with Troy, you look at both the interceptions that he's had this year. Aaron Donald splits a double team in Indy. He's right there. And then you look at Jalen. Great job being able to play concept trigger, drives on an in, kind of on like a curl type of route. He's in perfect position, plays through the receiver, where it's a legal play, gets the ball tipped up, and then there's Troy being able to play an underneath zone. Good things happen to those who run, and he was in a position to run, get underneath that, make that play. Complementary football, we got to take better advantage of that, but I thought that was a great reflection of Troy being in the right place at the right time. And then similar to what Troy did in the Indy game, you look at Nick Scott, it was an unbelievable play he made at the end of that game when they're trying to extend and have that kind of last-ditch effort. He ends up defeating a blocker, making a great tackle, and then here he does in closing time again where ends up being able, he's got great range in the deep part of the field. He's got great athleticism. I think that's why you see him show up on special teams so much, but he's got great ball skills too. Don't forget this guy was a former running back at Penn State, very natural in that regard. And he delivered in a big way, and I thought he made the most of his snaps the other night, and that was a huge play that we had to have right there.
It seems like the defense, like the seams are starting to seal up, like the chemistry's starting to get there. They're starting to gel.
Yeah, I think there was some good things the other night. I thought our front played tough. I think when you look at the way that we asked our guys, especially in the defensive line and those big fellas up front, to respond after an outing against Arizona, that we felt like they could be a lot better. I thought they answered the bell in a big way. I thought they knocked out the run game for the most part. There was a couple different things here with some loose plays, but I was pleased with their effort, and I thought, just like anything else, football is the greatest team sport there is. When we play well on the first level, usually that translates to good ball on the second and third level, and there's a lot of things that we can build on, and like anything else, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams, we're always evolving, always trying to continue to improve, and never let complacency set in.
How do you and Joe D and Matt Gay work through kind of an odd night in the kicking game on Thursday in Seattle?
Yeah, I think one of the things that can't be minimized, that wind was a real factor, especially when we were going left to right, on a couple of those where the kicks went out of bounds. Matt's never going to make any excuses. We expect him to perform at a high level. But what I told him that I think says as much about him as anything is, all right, hey, it didn't go well, but how do you have the ability to just take a deep breath, take a step away, be totally still, be totally present, and then in the moment where you got a chance to really ice the game and put it out of reach and put us up 9, when you're kicking a field goal right there, and that to me, I think that says a lot about the confidence that we had in him to send him out there in that situation. He delivered in a big way, and I think that's a good thing that he can build on. Hey, we're not, we don't want to have those types of things occur, whether it's missing the extra point or, putting a couple of those kickoffs out of bounds, but we know that's not reflective of who he is. If anything, this past weekend gives you a reminder of how difficult the kicking position is, and we feel fortunate that we've got a good one who I know will be able to, learn from some things that didn't go well, but at the end of the day, what he did do was come through in the clutch for us, and that's not lost on me by any stretch.
Don't like the mistake. I love the response to it.
That's exactly how I feel, D'Marco.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah, go out. If you kick one out of bounds, just go out and get them out on defense, and we'll figure it out later.
That's right. No, let's not put our defense on the 40.
Right.
We can move on from that one. And again, I mean, to be able to go out there in crunch time when you're saying, hey, we hit this kick, game's over. If not, maybe you give them a little bit of life. And what did he do? Put it right through the uprights and delivered, and Rams win.
One of my favorite episodes of Flying Coach, your podcast with Peter Schrager this summer.
I feel bad for you.
Had Joe Judge on it. No, I mean, I think everyone in New York was very encouraged with some of the things that they did collectively last season, and there was so much optimism this offseason. You brought that to light really well. It has not gotten their way so far, but this doesn't strike me as a group that's looking at a 1-4 opponent or 3 upcoming opponents who all have losing records.
There's no doubt, JB, and I think this league is too competitive. Humility is a week away in this league. If you don't handle yourself the right way, this is going to be a fundamentally sound team. They've got playmakers on all 3 phases. They're a tough, resilient mindset group. You can see that with the way that they play. And when you look at the film, we try to really stay, you don't get too caught up in the records. You say, hey, what does the tape say? What are you seeing on tape from their players, their schemes, the way these guys compete? And this is a really good competitive football team. They had a handful of injuries yesterday against a Dallas team that's playing as well as anybody. But you look at it the week before, they go to New Orleans, play a really good football team, and found a way to get a win. And so there's a lot of things, there's a lot of reasons for us to know that the sense of urgency and the ability to have a great week of preparation so that it leads to a good performance is vital for our success and to try to go get our 5th win.
I think they lead the league in 6'5", 300-pound defensive tackles. Just big dudes.
They got a good-looking team. They play well. I think Coach Graham does an excellent job of leading that unit on defense. I think Coach Garrett's done a great job mixing it up offensively, and so there's a lot of great challenges for us.
Last one for me. Did you see Aaron Donald's Rocket Mortgage commercial?
I did.
Chance? Who's got the better Rams commercial? Your soup commercial or his?
You know what? I told him today. I said I thought that was pretty good, man. He disappeared. I was kind of laughing. I enjoyed that. So we'll say Rocket Mortgage and Campbell's Chunky Soup. Double thumbs up on both.
I like it. No double pun, huh? No?
No.
Okay.
No
play for it? Okay.
He doesn't need a cloaking device to get around any offensive lineman. Hope you enjoyed your weekend, and I know the mini bye comes at a good time. It's a good mile marker on your season. Congrats on a 4-1 start and a safe trip to New York this week.
Thanks, guys.
For Sean McVay, for D'Marco Farr, I'm JB Long. This is the Coach McVay Show.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.